this is actually easier to explain in Chinese, but because there's three interesting words that distinguishes Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. It's all called 见 in Chinese, but Web 1 is like 看见, meaning like I just see it. I see it, I observe it. And Web 2 is 鉴定, and that means I interact with it. I kind of, I can send Twitter, I can share, I can do social media, etc. And then Web 3 is called 建设, that means building. So I'm not just observing, interacting, I'm also participating in the build of Web 3.
Welcome to another episode of the Untangling Web3 podcast. Today, we're delighted to be joined by Gracy Chen, the Managing Director of Bitget, a leading cryptocurrency exchange where she leads growth and expansion into global markets. Having been involved in the crypto world since 2014, Gracy brings a wide range of experiences to Web3, having also held executive roles at the virtual reality tech company XR Space. On top of all that, Gracy's previously been named as a global shaper by the World Economic Forum and holds an MBA from MIT. So, with that impressive introduction, welcome to the show, Gracy.
Hi, everyone. Nice meeting you, Jack and Alec.
Hey, Gracy. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Perfect.
Great. So yeah, impressive background introduction that Jack has given you. But let's hear it from your own mouth, actually. Can you explain about your early career and maybe how you got into this space for us?
Sure. As you mentioned, as Jack introduced, I started off in 2014. And by the way, that's right after I graduated from my undergrad in Singapore, where I studied applied mathematics. So I didn't do anything in finance right away. I was working as a TV journalist, but it's reporting on the finance and technology space. And that's why, and that's when I get to know many folks in this industry. And one of my industrial friends asked me, Gracy, you should check out crypto. Actually, she said, you should check out Bitcoin. So I read Bitcoin white paper and I bought some BTC, ETH, and XRP in 2014, 15-ish. Obviously, that went pretty well because I think the price that I bought majority of my Bitcoin, at that time, Bitcoin was only 300. And look at where we are today. Like we are doing this podcast in early December, and we just reached, Bitcoin just reached 40,000 yesterday. It's its all-time high within 20 months, not all-time high, but 20 months high. Yeah, so very proud of my investment. But at that time, I was more of an investor. And it's last year, 2022, I joined Bitget, and this is actually my first Web3 job. And before that, I was doing Web2 startups as co-founder and CMO.
Oh, that's an incredible background. I don't think we've had anyone that's come from a fundamental understanding of mathematics and then gone to journalism and then into crypto. Did that change? Did it give you a unique perspective on, say, the incredible opportunity that Bitcoin and crypto presented?
Yeah, totally. So because of my background in applied mathematics and also MIT, it's a very technical school. When it comes to, especially while making investment decisions, I think I leverage a lot on data and facts. For example, earlier this year, like mid this year, I joined this crypto reality show called Killer Wealth, where there's it's basically a crypto version of Shark Tank. So there are a few judges, like 5 of us on each episode, and there will be projects pitching to us. And lots of questions that other panelists might ask is a lot around, what are you doing? What product are you building? What's the go-to-market strategy, etc. But I'm like, let's look at the data. Let's look at the facts. And I want to clarify, what do you mean by user number? Is it DAU? Is it registered user? Is it monthly user, etc.? So I'm very technical when it goes to investment and also making decisions around that.
That's really good to hear. Actually, it's nice to have someone with such a data-driven view on the market on Web3 projects, because yeah, I think sometimes it can be too easy to get lost in a sea of numbers that don't necessarily mean anything. You're doing things from first principles. So before we get on to talking about your current role and with Bitget and what you do at that exchange, I'm interested in just hearing your kind of overall perspective on what we call the crypto markets. And maybe it'd be worth, explaining to our viewers, because we've touched on crypto markets in the past, but you as an expert, it'd be great to hear what you think about it. So what do we actually mean when we say crypto markets? Is it just Bitcoin, Ethereum, other tokens, or is it something bigger than that? What's your perspective on all that?
Mhm. That's a good question. So I guess people categorize this crypto market very differently. For me, I look at a few different categories. So the first one is the bigger cryptocurrencies such as BTC and ETH. It's a lot. It's very decentralized, and the market itself or the tokens themselves are very much driven by things like, whether at Bitcoin there's a spot ETF approval, and Ethereum there is a Cancun upgrade, things like that, like the fundamental upgrade or difference changes within these specific cryptocurrencies, but these are the major cryptocurrencies. And then the second category I will look at is stablecoin. So USDT, USDC, these are some examples of stablecoin. And look at the name, they have to be stable, right? So they are usually pegged to a fiat currency. For example, USDT, USDC, they're pegged to USD. And there are also other markets. I know like China, Hong Kong, Singapore, they all each have their own initiatives. If they're not in the market yet, they are actually under developing. Because I've talked to some of the policymakers and stablecoin issuers in those space. But basically, stable coins, they are pegged to fiat currency. So when people are not holding cryptocurrency, I mean, typical cryptocurrencies such as BTC or ETH, they're probably just parking some of their assets into USDT, USDC. These are the major stable coins. And then a third category I might look at is what we'll call it altcoin, but within altcoins, it's a lot of different categories as well. Like there are layer two cryptocurrencies, there are meme coins, there are some provides value, such as like BGB, so like our Bitget platform token. So there are exchange platform token as well. So all these altcoins, they have different reasons of being there, but a fundamental reason of issuing cryptocurrency, I would say, is about community, is about sharing that vision with whoever believes in this community. Like for BGB, we want to kind of share this this vision with our users and with our other people who are not Bitget employees or shareholders, for example.
So question there, Gracie,
sure.
just a second, because I think that's really interesting that you mentioned already, this term altcoins, right? And it seems like this big basket. How do you define an altcoin? Because you mentioned things like meme coins, like your Doge and things like that, but then also platform tokens. And maybe could you explain the role of a platform token? Because I think that's very different to some of the meme coins, and why do you bucket them in with the altcoin market as well?
When I bucket altcoins, I would say anything other than maybe top 10 cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
I will kind of bucket them into altcoin, or if they are not stable coin. And obviously, according to my definition, platform token, exchange platform token will be one of them. Like, for example, if we look at, let's say, CoinGecko right now, I think Bitget platform token, BGB, is around 70, like is ranked around 70-ish within all the cryptocurrencies, which I'm pretty proud because actually when I joined the firm about 1.5 years ago, like less than 2 years ago, we are nobody. We're not even on like the 1,000 list. There's no ranking in our cryptocurrency. But within 2 years, we've developed a lot. Of course, I can talk like endless about lessons we learned along this journey, and some of the things that we did right, some of the things that we probably did wrong. This is a whole nother story. But my point is, all the exchange the major exchanges, we pretty much have our platform token, and there are different reasons for having them. But one of them we touched upon is to share the vision and value with the community. But also, this is sometimes used as a utility token where our users can get a discount, for example, if they are holding BGB in terms of the trading fee, they can get a discount, and they can participate in some more special programs such as Launchpad, Launchpool. Not necessarily through BGB, but basically, if you're holding BGB, you are considered more like a privileged user at Bitget platform.
So one thing that you said earlier that tickled my interest was that you first invested in BTC when it was $300. So I'd describe you as a fairly early investor. You've been around and in the space for a while now. Obviously, we've just come out of starting to come out the most recent crypto winter, as most people describe it, mostly because of things like the Bitcoin ETF and regulation and regulatory adoption and big institutional adoption coming in. But what are your thoughts on the current state of the crypto market, and what insights do you have as to how it's evolved over the last few years from your perspective?
First of all, going back to 2014, 15, when I made that investment, my rationale was pretty simple. Because after reading BTC Bitcoin white paper written by Satoshi Nakamoto, whom until today we don't know who that person or that's a person or that's an organization, right? But anyway, the very genius guy Satoshi Nakamoto wrote this paper. But from that white paper, what I learned is, at least that's how I think, is BTC is like a digital gold and Ethereum is like a digital oil. What do I mean by that? So we are millennials and Gen Z. We don't hold gold as our parents or even grandparents, right? How they value it. So and also history shows that humans always have a strong willingness to store their money in an asset, which is different from the day-to-day working arrangements of government and authority. So right now, gold is one of the so-called anti-risk asset, but to me, it's an old generation thing. I don't buy in that story anymore. And Bitcoin, because of the very beautiful mathematical design within it, it's just like gold. It's not endless, and you need to mine, Bitcoin out and capture that value. So that's how I view it. And then Ethereum, this is like an ecosystem where people can build on it. And it's just like how basically Ethereum was more compared to a digital oil, because if you think how oil powers up car, similarly, Ethereum powers up decentralized apps built on the Ethereum network protocol. So I bought it because I kind of bought in the story or the narrative, and which proved to be pretty much true within at least the past couple of years. And then in 2013, 14, 23, 24, like still 10 years ago. I guess right now a big narrative or outlook in the 24 that I'm personally very interested in and monitor closely about is, number one, when does the BTC spot ETF get approved by SEC? Right now, it's expected in January 24. And the market is recently very optimistic, as we see Bitcoin has been growing up a lot within the past couple of weeks. And this is one thing that I'm monitoring. And the second thing is Ethereum Cancun upgrade, which is also scheduled for the first quarter next year. And during that period of time, I would say Ethereum and then the layer 2 ecosystem will further unleash their potential, especially like ZK layer 2 projects. There are a lot of them upcoming, and I guess next year we'll experience a huge token issuance boom like this period of time where lots of ZK L2 projects were coming up. And then a third thing that I'm monitoring is about US interest rate. When does the hiking cycle reach its end? When does the rate start to cut? Maybe it can go as early as May 24 or as late as, end of 24. But I personally think it will happen in 24. I'm not a macroeconomics expert, but the 5% plus interest rate is just ridiculously high. Even if there is the inflation that US need to battle. Yeah, so these are the major things. And then there is probably USDC, Insure Circle, probably will go IPO. That's another, positive event driving us. And halving that will happen in slightly more than 100 days. And recently FTX and Binance case kind of like settled down a little bit. So these are all important events in our space.
There's a lot of events basically, and thanks for that insight.
Sorry for throwing you lots of information.
No,
I'm
that's the
just
thing. There's
like...
just so much. There's so much, and it's so interesting. And I think we are specifically going to talk about some of these leading events a bit later. One of the things that I found particularly interesting and exciting, and it's refreshing to see someone in the space who's read the Bitcoin white paper. Like a lot of people talk about BTC and they haven't even read the white paper. And like, come on, learn something. I mean, Jack reads it every night just before bed because he loves it so much. But one thing I would like to come on to about that is, when you read the white paper obviously was pushed as this peer-to-peer digital cash system, right? And like, cash, high transactions, passing from money person to person in a more efficient way. But the narrative has changed somewhat in recent years. And the reason I ask this question is because you've also bought into that narrative. It's something that me and Jack have also started saying is around BTC being compared to digital gold and hold of value. Why do you think this transition happened? And what kind of what did you notice as to why this transition did happen?
It's a good question. Actually, even if I said BTC is digital gold, if you look at, I think I read this somewhere, but basically someone did a comparison or correlation study on Bitcoin price and gold price. Actually, the correlation is basically nearly. You wanna guess? It's what, like it's from -1 to 1. What's the number? Because that correlation measures, how much they correlate with each other.
I'm gonna guess high, 0.9.
Okay, another? Any other guess?
0.5. I reckon 0.5, something like this.
Okay. Actually, the correlation is like somewhere near 0.
Oh, really?
Surprisingly, right? It means Bitcoin and gold, actually, in terms of price, it doesn't really correlate. So this is at least for the past few years. This is quite fascinating. So I wouldn't say I want to correct myself in terms of Bitcoin is not digital gold, which I still think it is. But when I say it is, it means Bitcoin is how we view the current world and how we kind of want to store our asset and hedge against lots of things, not necessarily inflation, because in, I guess, 2018, 19, before that, Bitcoin and inflation rate kind of like, it is a hedge asset. But after that, when Bitcoin goes mainstream, by mainstream, I mean enters the view of more traditional financial market, then it's not going against hedging inflation. It's very much related to how inflation reacts, how interest rate reacts, and how the traditional financial market drives more institutional money buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. Big companies such as MicroStrategy, SpaceX, Tesla, and then even like US and China, all these governments, they are holding Bitcoins. So it's much more related, like Bitcoin right now is much more related to the traditional financial market. And that's indeed why when I talk about, the top 3 narratives that or outlooks that will happen in 24 that will drive our market. Like two of them were related to traditional financial market, right? Recall spot ETFs, Cancun upgrade, and the US interest rate hike. One and three, they're both very much related to how the traditional financial industry works. So I guess that's when the shift happened. The shift happens because this is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrencies going mainstream.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that's a really useful insight to have, right? Is I guess we like to often say kind of Web 2.5 as these new systems are moving towards the mainstream. They're kind of in this flux between what they originally were when they were started, and then how they're being picked up and perceived by legacy traditional institution. And at some point, we can expect things like Bitcoin and Ethereum to just be part of the furniture of normal finance, which is really interesting. Speaking of going mainstream and getting large kind of global scale adoption of crypto, I guess we should move on to this whole idea of crypto exchanges, right? Because to my mind, they're a big part of how we go mainstream. Getting retail users like you, Alec and I, the kind of guy on the street. How do we get involved? How do we get exposure to these assets? How do we hold them? But we've tried to just define a crypto exchange in the past. I think it'd be great to hear from you. What do we actually mean by a crypto exchange, and how do you see its role in the wider kind of Web3 ecosystem? Is it purely just a way to on-ramp and off-ramp users, or is there kind of a bigger role for them in terms of the other services you guys can offer?
So for crypto exchanges, we have different values. Trading value is one of them. It's probably a major one of them. But also there are values such as market making, such as provide more liquidity in the space. And also if many, especially the bigger exchange, I would say the top 10 exchanges, including Bitget, we are building this whole ecosystem rather than just having the exchange itself. So for them, within our ecosystem, we have an investment firm that we closely work with, which is called Foresight Venture. We are their largest limited partner, their largest LP. So we have an investment arm, and they also have an incubation part within not just VC, but also early stage incubation. And then we also work closely with a decentralized wallet, which was called Bitkeep, and later on rebranded to Bitget Wallet. And that's where people can do many on-chain DeFi activities, such as swapping and buy some very new innovative altcoins before they are listed as centralized exchange. So I guess within our ecosystem, some of those values can be provided to crypto space by also investing and endorsing really good projects. Like within our listing team, we work closely with our listing and research team. We work closely with each other so that we can identify which project is really building something and which project is like scam that we don't want to list at the centralized exchange.
Yeah, I'd love to know can you give us any more insight on what kind of criteria you're looking for, right, within the listing? What makes a good proposition for a token or a coin to be listed on an exchange like Bitget? I'd really like to hear that from your kind of insight.
Sure. So for listing, we look at different categories. I would say top three. The top three things that we value is number one, real tractions such as on-chain data, Discord, and Twitter followers and activities. Basically, how your community is really working together towards this goal that your project has. Basically, we will look at all these tractions in details, like how many people have their on-chain wallet linked to holding this cryptocurrency, and what's the DAU? That's like the user number, daily average user. By the way, DAU stands for that. So all these tractions, we will look at them, and I think that's fundamental. And by the way, when we look at tractions, we just don't just look at Twitter followers by default. We don't take it for granted because sometimes, as we know, all these followers number can be fake, and you can easily buy fake numbers. So we will really dig in and see whether these are real, activity, real user, real community followers, etc. So that's the first category. And then number two, we'll look at the team, because ultimately, whoever is building this project is really, the real person driving the activity and the community. So the team background, the investors profile, what projects they did before, and how's that project performing. So this is another category. And then a third one, I would say, still fundamentally, we will want to know, business model, and your tokenomics, things like that. Like how is this project really hedging, like moving around and really building? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And if you have issued a token, or if you haven't issued a token but you plan to do one, what is the tokenomics? How many are locked and unlocked, and for how long? Things like that. Yeah. So all these different metrics, we will look at them closely.
I mean, that's really interesting. I think, when most people, including myself, think of exchanges, we just think of, it's a way to buy and sell cryptocurrencies, right? But I think more and more, like you're saying, it's kind of a gateway for engagement, for community, for projects to develop on top of. And that is so important for Web3 adoption and Web3 projects, maybe even beyond cryptocurrencies, right? When you talk about tokenomics and NFTs and smart contracts, a lot of these will need exchanges like yourself as well, which is extremely exciting. I think, one of the questions I'd like to ask, because we see a lot in the news around, certain exchanges and the challenges they've faced, maybe with regulation, maybe we'll come on to that a bit later. But in your mind, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities facing crypto exchanges right now?
I guess challenges for us, the biggest challenge is still around regulation and compliance. What I mean by that is there are some governments that, first of all, regulation compliance is not challenging. It's not the challenge. It's unclear regulation is a challenge. And to name a specific country, I think the US is quite chaotic when it comes to, regulating exchanges. I read the other day that Coinbase complained that they had meeting with SEC for like is it hundreds or thousands within a year, but still today they don't have specific that's probably like how many emails that they had. But basically the message here is they still don't know whether SEC categorizes Ethereum or any other altcoins as security or not. So it's things like this that make us quite difficult in terms of navigating certain markets. We don't want, very vague answers. We want clear regulation compliance, and that would be helpful not just to exchanges but to the whole, crypto and blockchain ecosystem. So that's why I think that's the number one challenge. And then a second challenge that we are facing at Bitget would be how to navigate our globalization, how to kind of localize some of our products. Because we started off in Asia, but right now Bitget is a global exchange. We serve more than 20 million users coming from more than 100 countries. Even our own employees, there are, I think our HR counted, there are 60 plus different passport origins. Yeah, so people are scattered around the world and
decentralized,
very decentralized. But also, if you look at my calendar when you guys book, this interview, right? It's so hard sometimes when we are working at different time zones. Not to speak that within Bitget, people speak different languages. English is our working language, but we do have very different cultures. And to serve each market, for example, Latin Latin America users might be very different from a Southeast Asian users. And then that might be very different from a European user. And then within Europe, there are different countries that speak different languages. Sometimes even just like our translation team is a big team here at Bitget, by the way. It's all these sort of localization, globalization. This is quite challenging, especially at our current stage.
Okay. Well, that's the challenges. So what do you think some of the biggest opportunities are right now for crypto exchanges like Bitget?
Of course, if we look at the challenges, we kind of know the opportunities lie within those threats and challenges as well. So for exchanges or if you get away, you have a good system to navigate the globalization, localization, that would be terrific. So for example, at Bitget, we are recently recruiting some localized product manager in order to localize our product, not just translate them into a different language, but also to get to know their user much better than so-called the global headquarter, because they live in that country or that region, and they know the user's behavior. They probably know which kind of altcoins that they want much better than we do. And we do have a system, for example, where a country manager can initiate a listing of token because they see lots of users want that token in their region. And not just listing manager doing that, but we also want to make sure that this is a healthy system. So for example, if my country manager, one of my country manager come to us and say, I want to list this coin called ABC. And because my country user wanted, but then we listed and it's not performing. There is no traction. There's no buyer. We will probably just downgrade this person's recommendation. So we have a whole system of doing all of these, like listing, marketing with local media or local events, and like an operation, basically everything. It's a lot about how each region is different, and we rely on our localized team to provide us with those information.
So thanks for that. That's really interesting about I didn't really think of some of the business dynamics specifically of exchanges. That's really useful to understand how to get these localized services for, really kind of global solutions and global players. And one of the things that you mentioned there, regulation, obviously so much of the challenge of Web3, blockchain, crypto generally is all about regulation, regulatory uncertainty, and all these kind of things. I think you talked about, securities, commodities, how things are listed specifically for cryptocurrencies. One thing also on the regulation point, which is probably quite relevant with the whole Binance fine that came out recently around AML, KYC, consumer protection. But what are your thoughts on the role of crypto exchanges in promoting financial inclusion?
Yes. So financial inclusion is a very important topic, and we play a pivotal role. So for example, at Bitget, we have something like blockchain for youth. We are actually announcing another blockchain CSR program. CSR stands for corporate social responsibility, by the way. So these are sort of like investor education, investor and user education part of financial inclusion, where we wanna emphasize on providing educational initiatives to help our users and investors understand the risks and return and benefits and potential challenges associated with various investment opportunities. So this is one thing. And another thing from financial inclusion point of view, I would say is it's not just about education, educating your investor and user, but also about protecting investor and user. What I mean by that is this is a very volatile market in cryptocurrency, and many users, especially during Bitcoin goes up, like this period of time recently, there are many newcomers, and they probably are just looking around and they don't even know where to start to buy cryptocurrency, right? Like yesterday, I was talking to one of my friends at Harvard. He was asking me like, if I want to buy some Bitcoin, where should I start? And I gave him some advice. And basically, for exchanges, it's really the starting point. But there are so many smaller exchanges who might be bankrupted like right away. And I think our user have to make a wise choice in terms of go with the bigger names. Look at, ranking within maybe top 10, top 20. These are some of the choices that you should think about, but don't go for smaller exchanges. And at Bitget, we have very rigid frameworks to protect our users. For example, we have initiated our Bitget Protection Fund earlier last year, like mid last year, even before FTX collapsed. And that was a 200 million fund where we put all the money on open wallet, on-chain data, where users can really go there and see for yourself. After FTX collapse, we increased it to 300 million because we see there are more further needs in terms of seeing, protection. And yesterday we just published our monthly result report on this protection fund. And right now it's valued more than 400 million because we have some Bitcoin within this portfolio and some USDT, USDC, and only these three major cryptocurrencies. We don't even have Ethereum nor our platform token in the protection fund. So if Bitcoin price goes up, it goes up as well. But schedules like this or frameworks like this is so important to protect the users, and investor user protection is very important in financial inclusion.
Yeah, an interesting thing that you said there, which always blows my mind. It really brings me back to earth when you say, okay, a friend recently asked me, how do I invest in Bitcoin? And obviously, we've probably been in the space for a while now, and that's just assumed knowledge. And it kind of still strikes me that we are at the forefront of this. And it's still a very emerging technology for a lot of people. And with that comes a lot of growing pains. But, for everyday users, they hear about people losing Bitcoin in their wallets and it being lost in some mine or something like that, and they can't access it anymore. Like, how does Bitget specifically ensure the security of user funds? What kind of technologies do you have to actually secure that?
So we publish proof reserves. You will use Merkle Tree blockchain technology to have our users being able to validate whether their fund is there or not, which is always there. So that's one way of protecting users and showing more transparency. And some other, I wouldn't say technology, but it's all just like basic financial tools that we use. KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering. So these financial tools and terms that we have is also very important in terms of ensuring that we are not dealing with illegit money, for example, and our users are accredited investors in each region and country, especially when this particular country has very clear regulation compliance. We want to make sure that we follow the rules. And in order to, by addressing all these aspects, like educating our investor, protecting our investor, do due diligence on the projects as well, and be quite upfront about risk, which is risk disclosure. I think all these are very important in our daily activity, and that can, make this, at least at Bitget, we want to play a transformative role in making Web3 finance more accessible, while also at the same time safeguarding and educating both traditional and new entrants in the investment space.
Yeah, that's really refreshing to hear that you've kind of got this, what seems like a very progressive stance towards, crypto and crypto markets, right? Because it sounds like you sit somewhere between a centralized exchange and a decentralized exchange. You're doing everything you need to do to protect your customers, right? Which you don't necessarily get with a decentralized exchange. But as you said, you still have wallet services and things to allow users to kind of take control of their funds. So it's good to hear that you're doing things the right way. And things like publishing proof of reserves is great. I completely am behind that kind of initiative because, again, it's using these principles of Web3, right? This transparency to make sure that users can be more confident in their funds, which I think is a really great thing. Speaking of accessibility, you said you want to make this as accessible as possible to users. How do you view kind of making it accessible to new users, right? Because I presume, we're in 2023 now. There'll be this big pool of users who, like me and Alec, already know about crypto and, may just use the exchange very easily. But then you've got people like your friend at Harvard who is just at the start of their journey and asking you now, how do I get involved? So is that a big challenge, like making it accessible to both groups of users? And how are you trying to attract and grow the services to the new the new people who are completely green to the industry and have never maybe held any Bitcoin or anything in the past?
Mm. I guess for me, I have the two different approaches. So for some users who are, like interested in using more cryptocurrency exchanges, I would say try some features. For example, at Bitget, we have this thing called copy trading. So let me quickly explain what is copy trading first. So this is basically where we have traditional, we have elite traders who are professional crypto traders, and they can open their subscription service to copy trading, where new users can subscribe to their portfolio. And when the elite traders are buying or selling, the new users will just automatically buy and sell. And we offer this to both derivative market and also spot market so that it can be tailored towards different risk appetite. And this is a method to allow novice investors and less experienced traders to participate in the Bitcoin market or crypto market, even if they may not have the time or resource to trade on their own. That's one way of looking at it. So try copy trading, and you can use fake money, because we provide this trial schedule so that people may be able to firstly understand what that is. It's quite a new feature. It's quite a feature that sets Bitget apart from other cryptocurrency exchanges, because we launched this in May 2020. It's been more than 3 years, and I think Binance just launched it this year. But at the same time, we also the world's largest cryptocurrency copy trading platform. So that's one way. And then another way is, even if for users who are not trading on Bitget, I would say do something quite simple and straightforward, such as dollar cost averaging. Right now, Bitcoin is traded at 40K. My personal prediction of Bitcoin price within this bull market is probably another 2 to 3 times the current price, at least. Yeah. So just to, don't try to time the market, because nobody can time the market. And I've been talking about this since last year, when Bitcoin price was only, 20K. But basically, if you really followed my advice, and within the past 1 year from 20K to 40K, you kind of accumulate your chip on a monthly basis, you should have lots of Bitcoin at an average price of 30 something, right? And that's pretty good if we look at the current price or some of the outlooks. So dollar cost averaging is a method that I would recommend to many new users who just dollar cost average on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Don't even try to understand other stuff, other altcoins, if you don't have the time, or if you can try copy trading. That's just another way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think I can see how that makes things more accessible, right? Because I have noticed copy trading popping up in other, historical classic exchange. I think eToro, I remember seeing that a number of years ago. And I'm really glad you mentioned dollar cost averaging. That's a term we actually haven't had on the podcast before, but it's a really good one, because to my mind, it's kind of a very accessible way of getting exposure to the crypto market, because it mimics, a bit more like putting money into a retirement ISA or something, right? Because you're not, as you say, not trying to time the market. You're not trying to be one of these elite traders who seems to know what's going on all the time. You're just putting in the same sum every month in the hope that on average it will give you good returns, like in the stock market. So that's a really interesting approach to it.
So we've mentioned it a little bit throughout, but there's been some really huge recent events that's very relevant to any crypto investor, crypto exchanges, everyone across the board. The first one I want to get your take on is the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. Is the hype that it's getting valid?
I think so. I think, yeah, Bitcoin, and I hope so. I guess not just BlackRock ETF, but also other similar asset management firms such as Fidelity, Wisdom Tree, they have all applied for Bitcoin spot ETF in the United States. By the way, let's just quickly clarify. Actually, in the US, there is Bitcoin ETF, but not spot, but like futures ETF. That's approved already. And also, Bitcoin spot ETF is not just something in the US, it's global. And right now, a majority, I think, slightly around 50% of the market share are in Canada, because Canada has approved spot ETF in their market, Bitcoin spot ETF in their market, and it's also a pretty big financial market. But still, the US, in terms of finance gurus or the giants, they are all largely based in the US, especially in New York, on Wall Street. So if Bitcoin spot ETF get to be approved in the US, the money that I personally think might be flowing into cryptocurrency, where all these institutional investors and such as pension funds, such as high net worth individuals, family office, they can buy Bitcoin through very smooth fiat channel and very regulated, very well regulated space. And then the money we're looking at is probably somewhere like 100 billion USD. So that's it's a big market, and that we want to tackle. And also, that's why this is so like such a driving force about Bitcoin price recently. Yeah, but I
That's
personally think
huge.
it's not a problem or a question of whether or not it will be approved. It's just like a win.
Yeah. That's exciting to hear. The institutional adoption is so important for this space, right? And I think the other big event is around, the failures of FTX, maybe some of the fines around Binance. Given all of these things that have happened around FTX and Binance in recent times, how does this affect exchanges like Bitget going forward? And what does the future look like for exchanges in Bitget going forward?
Um, I guess for us, by the way, we don't serve US customers, and we didn't serve US customers for a long time. Um, Actually, I think around like FTX time, we kind of know that we don't want to do this market for the moment. At least before the regulation and compliance become very clear. And it's anticipated, I mean, for the upcoming few years, it's probably still quite hard to navigate. And for the Binance and FTX lawsuits, I would say, as a fellow exchange, I don't want to comment on them too much. But I guess a general rule here, or general opinion here, is that I don't necessarily view them as bad thing in crypto. It's actually neutral or even a little bit positive in terms of this is like more like settled down already. FTX and Sam SBF is facing his judge and sentence, I would say. And then CZ, they decided to pay this 4 billion USD to US government, except for SEC. I mean, the SEC part is still unsettled, but other than that, like FTC, DOJ, I think that those are pretty much settled by this 4 billion. So there is a pretty clear like black swan event, which is just hold it and put it down, because it's there already, it's priced in. And even with these two lawsuits, as we see, the Bitcoin price has still been going up, because there are very big other important reasons that's driving up the crypto price, meaning these events are priced in already, which for the moment, I think it's doing fine. And for us as another exchange, what we learned from this is, number one, don't mess up with the US. And and that's why we don't serve US customers. And then number two, be sure to, like, we have a much bigger compliance team after FTX as well. Like that, we realize that we need to have enough manpower and resource to navigate this more and more difficult regulation compliance schedule in the world. And we want to talk to local regulators and be fully transparent when they ask questions. I actually have email receiving questions around that from some of the governments, and I will reply to them. I'll talk to compliance team and sync each other, and I will even reply some of them personally, like writing the emails clearly and answer those questions. So be transparent, be compliant, and keep yourself updated. Have a strong compliance and regulation team. I guess that's some of the things that we all learned as exchanges.
Well, that's exciting. It's great to hear there is a small positive take on these events. So we're coming to the final part, and with all guests, we ask 2 quick fire questions just to see the consistency across the board and how it evolves over time. So the first question I'd like to ask you, Gracie, is, in one sentence, what is Web3 to you?
This is actually easier to explain in Chinese, but because there's 3 interesting words that distinguishes Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. It's all called 见 in Chinese, but Web 1 is like 看见, meaning like I just see it. I see it, I observe it. And Web 2 is 鉴定, and that means I interact with it. I kind of, I can send Twitter, I can share, I can do social media, etc. And then Web 3 is called 建设, that means building. So I'm not just observing, interacting, I'm also participating in the build of Web 3. I hope this helps as a elementary Chinese lesson as well, not just Web 3 quick take.
I love that. That might be my favorite answer so far. Thank you so much for that. It's great. And the second question is, so if you could choose anyone, dead or alive, to sit down and discuss Web3 with, who would it be and why?
Oh, interesting. By the way, I got asked about this question in another occasion, but that's not to discuss Web3. It's just like, dead or alive, who do you want to talk to? And I said, in that question, I said Maria Curie, because I want to ask her how to survive in such a male-dominated industry.
Fair enough.
But for the Web3 thing, I think I definitely want to meet Satoshi Nakamoto, if that is the person. I wanna understand what made him or her decide to create such a beautiful thing. Especially when I say mathematically beautiful, I can really appreciate the mathematics behind it. So that's the person I would pick.
Awesome. Well, that's the first time we've had Marie Curie, not the first time we've had Satoshi, but I think both really good answers. And yeah, likewise, I really enjoyed your definition of Web3 there. I have to learn that one myself for the future. Gracie, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for sparing your time to talk to us. It sounds like you've got a lot of exciting irons in the fire for 2024. So, we'll let you get back to realizing all those ambitions and dreams. And with that, we'll say to our audience, thank you for listening wherever you may be, and we'll join you next time to untangle a little more of Web3.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Untangling Web3, produced by Emma Camilleri.
Don't forget to send us your thoughts, questions, and comments on social media, and be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast provider to catch the next episode. See you next time to untangle a little bit more of Web3.
The views we express here are our own and do not reflect the views of our employers.